Hi, this is Ed in San Diego, California, and this is a business meeting. As you can see, the audience is all there, ready for you. And in Bucharest, Romania, Andrea Monteno. Did I mispronounce that?
Hi Ed, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to join your session so far. Don't worry. So it should be Andrea Munteanu. It's I always go by Andrea, so let's stick with that. It's fine.
Yeah, welcome. In Bucharest, Romania. So it's a 10-hour difference from California. So that will make it 5 p.m. happy hour.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Happy
okay.
hour.
We'll make this happy. And in LA is Dr. Ken Lloyd. Welcome again.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to join, and certainly nice to see Andrea again.
Ken,
Thank
I know
you.
you're very busy in prep of next projects, including a new book in the oven, so to speak. And so I really appreciate your time. So I've asked Andrea to come up with a program to be the central focus of today's broadcast in celebration and recognition of women across borders, across industries, across silos, across time and space. But to meet here inside what I call affectionately the global meeting room. I strive to make the global meeting room a psychologically safe place for business introductions, for conversations, rapport building, and perhaps bridge building. And international women in leadership roles, I believe, is a pathway towards strengthening international relationships. Ken, what do you think of that idea?
Absolutely agree. And to me, it's logical. It's the way things should be, and I think it's a great path to pursue. I'm very interested in hearing what Andrea has to say.
Andrea, you're a coach with the ICF, International Coaching Federation. I was fortunate to be invited to, with a press pass, to cover their international conference, which happened to be held down the street here last June in San Diego. And I met the leaders and I met key speakers. And you were not in that audience, as you said, but there were 1,500 others in there, and I met some of them. We're joined by Diane Devitt from Chicago today. Welcome.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning, everyone.
Andrea,
Morning.
this is Diane, Andrea, and of course, you know Ken. Andrea is in
Nice to meet
Bucharest,
you.
Romania,
Thank you.
and Diane is in Chicago today. And Diane Devitt is a good friend for years and and an advisor, particularly on public relations and media. She has written two books. I know one of them is called "What Color Is Your Event?"
Yeah, actually, I'm more in the hospitality meetings and events. That's my wheelhouse.
Your wheelhouse. Now, did you now at NYU, where you were a professor for 30 years,
Yes,
you did media stuff.
I was in the hospitality department and I taught a variety of classes pertaining to production and planning meetings and events, design, and yes. So,
So this is a meeting that I produced in Washington, D.C. And this was held inside a global law firm by the name of Mayer Brown. And there are people from the lobbying industry in that audience because our featured speaker in this particular event, uh, there were about 100 people in that room, uh, featured the chief lobbyist for a company called Samsung Electronics USA. And this was during late in the Biden era. And they were pushing through a bill that our keynote speaker wrote with some others. And it turned out that this bill, this proposal to Congress, was actually voted on, and it became the U.S. CHIPS Act, which is still funded. And one of the larger funders is the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Huge. And they have invested billions already in building up major manufacturing of semiconductor chips in the US, mainly so far in Phoenix, Arizona, and but also upcoming in manufacturing plants under construction at the current moment, I'm told, in Ohio and in Wisconsin. That's called foreign direct investment. The idea is to reshore or to manufacture chips in a more safe environment, US versus Taipei at the moment. But more about that later. The color of this event was flashing red. As you can see, this lady right there, she happened to be a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Okay, Andrea, I have asked you, as you know, to think about how to celebrate, how to recognize women, international women in business leadership roles. I'm going to turn this program over to you, and then we'll all participate in a conversation. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you so much. Looking forward for the conversation. Let me quickly share the screen. And I can just start by saying that, well, first of all, I'm really grateful, but also I am cautious of the importance of the subject, especially because we are approaching International Women's Day, but also in terms of the, subject itself and the representation of women in leadership roles. So I'm going to go over three main pillars of the discussion today. And of course, we can start with the barriers to have a checkpoint on the reality that we face right now. And I am super excited about some statistics that are presented through 2025 and beginning of 2026. And we can lastly also present the breakthroughs, because of course we should aim for some optimism in this conversation. And of course, I'm looking forward to hear your insights as well. I can just simply start by thinking about visibility in terms of strategic visibility that women are either facing as issues, but also should look for in terms of how to or what to achieve for the future. Of course, when we think about women representation, we can think about from the early leadership development that they should face versus the higher level leadership roles, as of course as we move up in the career ladder. A very, very common area, or let's say unrepresented field where women are lacking the let's say a significant percentage, is of course the STEM field. So if we think about science, technology, engineering, and the mathematics in terms of these type of fields, unfortunately, we don't see a specific or a representative number of women in the leadership areas, but also when it comes to individual contributors. Why is that? Maybe someone will definitely ask. We can think about the very next point here in my slide, and it's about having the doer function or role versus moving to a decision maker or an influencer when it comes to strategic visibility. I'm curious also to hear from you all when it comes to, your own experience in terms of women representation and how you see things in these fields?
Diane?
Well, I think that I kind of, in from where I sit with this, it's not my career, it's not my industry. I think that what has been accomplished is the realization that if you choose to be in it as a woman, that there are opportunities for you that might not have existed prior, or maybe that it's in a more open environment. I have a sister-in-law, for example, who was the only female uh, in college in her field at the time, but she also was just given a Hall of Fame award for that exact reason. I feel that the opportunity is there, and then it's up to the woman to make the choice based on her life and like as anyone to make her life her priority. From the hospitality industry point of view, from meetings and events, I mean, and I've always said this throughout my career, is for the most part, and I'm generalizing, the men are in the hotels in leadership positions, the majority. But that's also because hotels are looked at as real estate. And most of real estate on an executive level, my observation is that it's mostly male, not except for the Barbara Corcorans of the world, who I don't want to yell at me. So I think that I'm going to go back to what I said, is that I feel like that the choice is there. The I can't think of the word, like the stigmatism or maybe whatever the negative word. I don't think that exists too much anymore, and I think that it's just a matter of evolution and the reality of that women reach a certain point in their life where they have to make choices sometimes of job, career, family, as we all do. And so, yeah,
Good, thank you.
thank you.
Ken, would you like to comment?
I think it's a very good points that Diane had been making. And certainly in terms of women leaning in and pushing their own careers at the same time, to be in organizations that really support that, organizations that are diverse, honest, open, ethical. I think back to the firm that I joined. I was in consulting for a lot of years and joined a client. The client firm at about 1,000 employees were very few executive VPs, maybe 5 or 6. I wasn't one. I was a senior VP. So executive VP was over my level. And of those 5, 3 were female. And it was in the apparel industry. So the exec VP of design and merchandising, the exec VP of production, the exec VP of, in one of the other key areas, all were female, and they were terrific, and it was not an issue. It was nothing. These were the best people for these positions, and that's really what we look for. And hopefully, as time goes by and new generations that are now entering the workforce aren't coming in with some of the biases and prejudices, particularly against female. I personally grew up in a family with very bright and strong women. My first cousin, Vicky, of blessed memory, was clearly the brightest of our generation. She had gone to law school and was back in the 60s, the number one, they used to call it number one man in the class. And it was Vicky at a major law school. And that type of brilliance really flared through many of the women in the family. I never grew up with that stereotype. If you had met my mom or my grandmother, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And fortunately, I think there are many people out there that are experiencing the same kind of ethics and values in growing up and don't come in with these ridiculous prejudices that work against everybody. So I'm very optimistic about the future going forward, with more and more opportunities opening up for certainly for females and for all who bring merit and skill and ability to the job.
So my mother worked for many years in fundraising. Excuse me. Uh, the American Friends of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and it was basically funding Israel bonds. People bought Israel bonds, which is an American-based company, but the money went over there to pay for the development of the university, and it became like a Harvard kind of thing. And she was based in the Beverly Hills office, and she was the number two, which meant she put on fundraising events, dinners, lunches, and I was there to be a doorman. On occasion, I would be the one to uh, help someone from the audience walk through the crowd and up on the stage to be the speaker. And one time, Ray Charles was in the audience. And of course, he was blind. So I was there. I was the walker. So talk about meetings and events, Diane. I grew up in that kind of a thing, and I understand totally. Let's go back to Andrea. This is really just a beautiful slide. And in the STEMs, so that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But that also covers people care, doesn't it?
And first of all, I love your different perspectives, and I'm happy that we can, have a mix of opinions in this conversation. Secondly, yes, it's related to if we think about the science and what it covers under the science field. Yeah, definitely. It's true that if we think about, let's say, caretakers, probably the percentage would be different in terms of women representation. But drawing your attention to the last point here in terms of the corporate ladder. So if we think about from the entry level side to the C-suite, I can just quickly show you a very recent report coming from December 2025 under the McKinsey publishing. If you just glance your view on the color coding here, you'll see that we have a comparison of women and men in terms of diversity of race too. So in short, you can see that as we move up in the career ladder, the percentage of diversity representation decreases. So similar to what Diane was saying previously, it's true that if you think about, let's say, real estate, you would have your focus on an idea that this is a field for men, except, of course, for Barbara, which I admire so much. And if we think about departments or fields that are more into the, let's say, a very common women representation, that would switch in terms of the percentage representation. But clearly, when it comes to the corporate roles or the corporate world in general, we can definitely define a barrier between having 49% of women under the entry level side of the chart versus 29% as we move up to a C-suite level. So unfortunately, the situation is clearly defined in terms of statistics as well. True to say that it can depend, of course, so much on the department and on the field that we are referring to. But in general, it's still on a decreasing side.
Great. We have around 30 minutes remaining.
Mhm.
So, Andrea, let's go to the next slide.
Sure. So when it comes to internal and external barriers, really quick on these ones because we all know, let's say, what we have as an internal motivator or demotivator for our, let's say, career progression. First of all, and the most important or common one is the imposter syndrome. So it's not so. It's not really that uncommon to see delays or to see people just canceling on initiatives or options just because it's either an over preparation barrier or it's related, to us being so drastic on ourselves or on our capabilities. And this applies, of course, to both men and women in this scenario. Then we speak about mentoring versus sponsorship, and this is more related to how the job can, help us advance in the career. So it's about visibility and it's about having someone that can promote yourself and speak for yourself in terms of audiences or, let's say, in networks in general, versus having someone that can guide you. And here the difference is that for the majority of women, we see the tendency of having more mentors than sponsors. And this is definitely something that can improve for the future. The last two are kind of linked in terms of having bias in performance evaluation and having, of course, the compensation that are related to those performance evaluations. So again, thinking about visibility, how to be perceived right, and how to be perceived as a top performer or as a talent, even though you are, linked to motherhood, even though you need to have your maternity leave, even though you have your, let's say, family that you need to support at home. With all that in mind, you can still be a professional and you can still be there for the business that you are representing or for the clients that you need to face. So, of course, this is ultimately linked to a pay gap. So, yeah, I would hand it over to you all for your insights on these.
Diane?
Well, as you were going through this, I was thinking of a couple of different things. Like Ken had said, he was surrounded by women growing up. My husband is the eldest of six. So he always says he's grateful to that he was number one because he was followed by my four sister-in-laws. Three of them were Olympians. Okay, they all grew up, and the fourth one just missed it by this. So, and then there was his poor brother. So, I am sensitive to everything you're saying, Andrea, and I think the perspective that I come from is that this has more credence depending on where you are focused in the world. I'm a New Yorker. I come from New York. I look at the young women around me, and I go back again to the confidence is there. They all go to school. They're educated. They do what they can do. But here's the important thing: they're supported. They're given support by very strong men. And I have to say that when you speak about women's rights, men have 50% to do with it. I remember Oprah saying that she could never have gotten where she landed if it weren't for the men who helped her along the way. So I think that smart women, will understand that they need an advocate and someone who's going to help them along the way. Number one. Number two is, without a doubt, the pay gap is a reality. But I do think that women have to speak up about it. Just yesterday, I received a phone call from a friend who said her daughter her daughter walked into the boss and said, I'm doing XYZ work. I've not been given bonuses. I've not been doing this. And he said, what do you want? And she named a price and she got it. So that's what a man would have done. Am I right, Ken?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what women are learning now is a man, and I'm generalizing, a man has, and my husband and I have spoken about this, a man knows his value. I'm generalizing, but doesn't hesitate speaking up about it, where women have hesitated, and the smart ones are not hesitating anymore, and they're getting what they ask for.
That's true.
I'll tell you, my mom and my grandmother would have certainly walked in and done the same thing, without a doubt.
I can recall the second I gave a brilliant idea when I think about it to a man in my industry. This was a while back. He said to me, you know, Diane, you shouldn't work. Now, this was going back 25 so years. You should not work for less than $30,000 an event, which at the time was a substantial amount of money. I said, okay, fine. You be my first customer. Oh, no, not me. I said, case in point. Case in point.
Yeah.
So, but again, so I think it's a debatable subject. It's an interesting one, but I do, to wrap it up, I think that it's about supporting women to think like men and to open their mouths a little bit more and understand and embrace their value in a respectful way that's going to be acknowledged.
So women in general need lessons. How to act, how to portray.
They need support. We all open our mouths among ourselves. And I think that we need men. I mean, that's where the men with the, you know, and I'm generalizing, but it's personal to me. People have egos and people have this and people have that. They don't want to pay you if you don't open it up. So yes, I think the training, the awareness, you know, one of my favorite lessons in my entire life was in a play called Defending the Caveman. Ken, if you've never heard of it, see it. This is going back 30 something years. And this was the story of a man. It was a man, you know, men are from, what is it? Venus and Mars. It was right around that time. I saw that play the night before I was closing $1 million deal, which again, 30 years ago was significant, still is. And that play taught me how important negotiation was with men. The art of negotiation. Like, if I do this for you, what are you going to do for me? Typically, as a woman, I said, I didn't think like that. I thought, well, you asked me to do this. This is the best job I can do for you. Now, I came in to the penny on that budget, but they did not approve it until I brought a male colleague and friend in who said, fine, we'll take off X amount of dollars, which was my buffer and my insurance. We ended up billing 3 times as much as that at the end of the day, but they felt better just getting a little bit off.
A win.
And that was the biggest lesson I ever learned.
So there's a lesson in that. That's like an off-ramp.
For sharing, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yep. So go on.
So, Andrea, mentoring versus sponsorship. Mentoring means someone is in a teaching role, in a coaching role. Sponsorship is somebody that's maybe not visible, but they're supporting with money or ideas or connections.
Lobby for this discussion so much in terms of, you know, having women with more sponsors than mentors. Of course, a mentor is so important. And when it comes to, you know, the differentiation between coaching, mentoring, and sponsorship, it's all about the rapport of, you know, involvement from both parties. in terms of the sponsorship discussion, similar to what Diane was saying, we need to have women out there supported, and it's not the support in a negative way. It's the way of we are in this together. It doesn't matter that you are, let's say, a new joiner and you are a diverse candidate and you are new to the company and so on, or you are maybe the most experienced person in the company. You still need to have someone out there that knows how to present yourself when time comes. It's such a valuable asset when it comes to building relationships, but unfortunately, it's not that common. But moving on to the pay gap discussion, and I want to link it to a study that was, let's say, conducted at the global level by our friends from World Economic Forum. So this comes from 2025 as well. It brings up a perspective from Northern America up until Middle East and Northern Africa in our chart here. And I just want to highlight, of course, we all know numbers, and I don't want to take this into a statistical discussion, but just highlighting the fact that Northern America leads the 2025 statistical report in terms of regional gender gap rankings, having closed 75.8% in our chart here of its overall gender gap. I'm proud to say that Europe follows because I'm based in Bucharest, in Romania. It follows in the ranking second in place with the 3/4 of the regional gender gap closed at 75.1%. And on the opposite, we have in the 8th place ranks Middle East and Northern Africa with a regional gender parity score of 61.7%. Just a positive note here, because I think it's important for the global audience that you have. Despite being the lowest ranked, its trajectory signals gradual improvement with, let's say, performers like Israel with 73% and Bahrain with 65.6%, if I remember correctly. So it's a global, let's say, touch when it comes to pay gaps, when it comes to women representation. And of course, it's a discussion that I think has been here for quite some decades. And hopefully it will not be something that we see that spread in the future. And I want to continue next with a very interesting video that was powered by Bonn last year with for the International Women's Day. It's an interview. It's a very, very popular interview. I'm sure you all know it already. We have here Julie Becker, who did a fantastic job as an interviewer. And I don't want to add any additional comment. I will just press play because the video will speak for itself.
Can you repeat that question?
Have you ever been asked to just smile and look pretty, or smile and just say nothing in a meeting with a customer?
No.
Do you think that your looks helped you getting promoted or moving up to your current position? Looking so good? By the way,
Yeah.
I do love the shoes. Are these designer? Are they a particular brand that you really like? Do your hormones sometimes get in the way?
Hormones, I don't know.
I see that it's a bit of an awkward question, but
Do you sometimes wonder whether you've been chosen for this position because you're a man?
No, not because I was a man.
How do you handle in your job being assertive without being perceived as aggressive or bitchy?
That's a question that I find it very hard to relate to.
Why?
Because it's It's not a situation I've been in.
What do you think about the line of questioning so far?
I see where you're going.
Where's that?
Showing the difference in what you perceive as what you experience as a man versus as a woman.
It really, really, really feels uncomfortable, and I also feel it in my body.
When hearing these things still happen, it made me also feel that, hey, maybe I am more privileged than I thought I was.
Do you think this world is ready for your 10-year-old daughter to be treated with the same equality as a 10-year-old son?
This is something that keeps me up, makes me worry sometimes. So it's real when it's about my own daughter. I think the only thing I can do is to prepare for the real world. And it's really hard. People are so difficult for each other sometimes.
I wish every female leader to be safe and not confronted with these questions.
If you observe something, you have to step in. You can't just wait for someone else to step in or to solve something. This is a responsibility we all have.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
It is.
Yes, brilliant. And not to mention the dynamics that go on between women and how men support women in business more than women support other women in business.
True as well, yeah.
And how women are judged by their shoes and their purse. Ken, did anyone ever comment on the purse you were carrying into work and how you carried it?
It's
And
so interesting.
the unwritten law of placing it on the table, which is sort of like, I'm here. I remember when one of my clients said to me, you know, Diane, you're a great quarterback. I don't know football. I said, thank you. Thank you. A lot of men grow up with sports and understand the moves and the things. I don't know that. So the dynamics are never going to change, Andrea. That's my opinion, because women are women and men are men in terms of who they are. Awareness like this, as this film brings out, but I don't think men can be blamed for that. I think it's just this kind of sensitivity that raises the awareness. Ken, am I lying? I mean, you Ken and Ed, did you ever think of these things in your life? You never would think of them.
No, never. Andre, let me ask you, were the people in that film actors? They looked to me like they were not actors, but maybe they
No.
were really good at acting.
No, unfortunately, they were not actors. It was a, real
Well, that
interview.
makes it fortunate. That's what made it really gripping to me.
Yeah.
I think so much also at the same time depends on the individuals who are involved. There are men who are way out on the edge of the continuum that would ask ridiculous questions like that of women. There are others who wouldn't think of it in a million years. And, in terms of, hey, you're a great quarterback, it just depends on the individuals. My wife happens to know a great deal about football, much more than I do. She loves it. And to tell her, hey, you're a great quarterback, but that's fine. I think we have to respect people as individuals and be fair and honest and with them and treat them almost as was alluded to in the film, in the way that we would like members of our family, our children, whether boys or girls, male or female, to be treated. And that's with respect for them and their individuality and the skills and all that they bring. But certainly those kinds of questions, what is this, 1970? Go away with that. And there are plenty of females out there that would not put up with that. And I'm absolutely, certainly my daughters wouldn't for a nanosecond. And I think there are plenty out there, and that's the positive trend. And I like the trends that Andrea noted in seeing this pay gap over the years that is changing. Of course it should. It's ridiculous for that gap to even exist. But let's make sure we understand the individuals with whom we're dealing and treat them in a way that we would like to be treated ourselves, and we'd like the members of our family and those we care about treated as well. There are some great lessons in that film. I thought it was crisp, clear, and right to the point, and said a lot of important things in a very terse and direct way that people need to see, males and females. It's just it's something that we have to all move beyond and at least be aware of it. So again, I thank you for showing it, and Diane, good points and questions as well.
I just have
Andrea,
one. I just like to throw in one other thing to
please.
think about, because this is a real story. So when the Me Too movement started, which I know is a whole nother topic, but it's related to women in business and women in office. When all of the Paramount, when all of the Harvey stuff came out, I was at a business dinner in New York with 6 of my contemporaries, my friends, but also women who were very accomplished in their jobs. We all had a story. We all had a story. From the boss chasing you around the desk, to the CEO cornering you in an elevator in between floors. All of that. And I'm one of them. And then I was at a business dinner at the same time. Yes, a dinner. And one of the men who owned his own financial management company said to the table, he said, well, the interesting thing is, I was in a meeting with 3 men, and we were talking about it, and all the men said they would never hire a woman who blew the whistle like the other women did, because they just wouldn't do it. And I was, and all of the women at the table just, we just shrugged, and we were like, yep, that's right. You wouldn't. So that's why sometimes I feel like I should have worn more heels so I could have stepped on more feet. But the point is that was their perspective. If she opens her mouth, I'm not going to hire her.
Interesting. That is the woman that I would want to hire. That's what I would want in the organization. But
Yeah.
we talk about psychological safety, to be open and honest and express your opinion and your views and your thoughts without any fear of retribution or reprisals.
Mhm.
That's the person that I would want in that organization. Come in and please, we want to hear you. We want to know. And that was the culture of the organization I was in for a lot of years. And it made it a much better place for everybody. And that's why we had this great diversity at all levels and enormous success.
Right.
We have 6.5 minutes remaining before I must get ready for the next program, which will be in a different link, by the way. So if you need me to resend to you, let me know quickly. Okay, Andrea.
Quickly go through this. I actually want to start by saying you are all, right in terms of sharing your opinions and perspectives in, the several cases that you had throughout your career, or even, thinking about everyday life. These things happen. Unfortunately, these things happen. What Ken was saying to the fact that this should happen in the 1900s or something like that, this happens even in 2026. So in terms of having these difficult conversations in an interview, or what Diane was saying, having some sort of a way of harassment at the workplace, this happens in 2026 as well. And I guess the conclusion for today would be that leadership is evolving or should evolve, and eventually we are all going to outperform ourselves in terms of businesses, in terms of professionals, if we adapt. So it's not only about, having some sort of a discrimination for women only, or some sort of a misalignment between, let's say, chances at work. It's about a general inclusion when it comes to everyone in the workplace, specifically in the workplace. And thinking about what we discussed about pay gaps, about performers, about having sponsors and so on, I think the most important conclusion that was drawn into the discussion was we need to have women speak up more. It's not about being a whistleblower. It's about speaking more and being out there, capable of, asking for your rights. Probably, if it's fair to say, as a man would do it, but let's change it to speak for your rights as a woman should do it. So these are just some bullet points, in terms of how you can outperform what we have right now in terms of the corporate environment. We can, of course, speak all day about exposure. We can speak about performance. We can speak about having some sort of a standalone sponsorship programs that are developed and formalized in the workplace. But I value so much our conversation for today, and I can say just thank you for sharing your experience and your thoughts, and thank you, Ed, for helping us with this conversation today.
An ally.
Of course.
Thank you all. Please come back. Let's do it again.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Diane, priceless contribution.
Oh, thank you. You live long enough. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
You
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
you.
Thank you.